Welcome to the Active Coaching, the podcast from Ag Leadership. We're a leadership and performance coach training company focused on developing exceptional leadership coaches for modern times. My name is Phil Askew, and each week on this show, I'll be joined by a member of our brilliant alumni, putting a voice to their very own hero's journey story. Our hope is that listening in to real-world stories of everyday people who have chosen coaching as a vocation will serve to demystify things and help you decide if this incredible vocation is something that calls to you too. So with that, let's meet this week's guest. All right. So let's jump in then. Really lovely to have you here, Jessica. Thank you for being on the show. One of the very first questions that I always ask people who come on the conversations with me is, if you have a sense of your niche, or niche, I keep meaning to say niche when I'm talking to Americans. If you have a sense of your niche or niche, what do you suppose that is? Who do you work with and who do you work for? And what is it that you're in service around?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say mine falls into two categories. And the first one is interesting because it's not a certain age or a certain demographic, but it's people who are looking for clarity with their path forward. I work with high school students who are figuring out what kind of college environment they want to go to. I work with college students who are figuring out what are they going to do when they graduate. I work with people who are going through a career change and they're trying to decide their next move. I work with parents who maybe they're empty nesters or their kids are in school and they're figuring out their path forward. And so it is such a mix, but it's a very similar goal that they're trying to get to. So that's one group. And then the second group it's professionals who are seeking balance, who are seeking that elusive work-life balance. A lot of times parents, but not necessarily. Sometimes just people who are so driven and consumed in trying to find that joy and balance in their lives apart from work. So I'd say those are the two primary groups that I work with.
Amazing. And how long have you been coaching now?
I have been coaching it's been about 6 years.
Oh, wow. So quite a stretch of time then. Quite a while.
Yes. And
Amazing.
before I did the program. And then I also have been doing marketing consulting. And then after doing the program, it became more the majority coaching.
Okay. I love that. So I think whenever I'm working with coach clients, because I'm a coach myself, I've been a coach for a long time too. And whenever I'm working with coach clients, what we figure out relatively quickly is that their highest value is freedom and variety. And so it's really important for those coaches to have freedom and variety about the kinds of clients that they work with. So if I'm actually trying to work with a new coach and they're desperately trying to get clients or lock down a business of some description, they're really reluctant to decide upon anything. But I love when you described your niches there, they sounded very clear, very clear. Two distinct paths, but they sound very clear.
Yeah, no, thank you. It is. It's a daunting thing for a coach where you're like, what is my niche? Is it working mothers? Is it high school students? Is it millennials? Is it Generation X? Is it executives? Is it mid-level professionals? And again, what I have found is that it is a broad group, but with specific places that they're trying to get.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're focusing more on the challenges that they're experiencing and the desires they're trying to reach, as opposed to the demographic, as opposed to saying, yes, I work with these people who work there of this age range.
Exactly. It's focusing on the place that they're in, that they're self-aware, that they know that they're trying to get to this next place. And in some cases, they don't know what that place is, and they're figuring out the path forward, and they have so many things, so many options that it's daunting for them, and helping them find that clarity and go through the self-discovery is really exciting.
It's always the case, isn't it? They're going through self-discovery, but we promise self-discovery as you go through the journey of coaching, like from point A to point B. But it's always, I think, there's so much revelation that comes out for clients that nobody anticipates it until you actually get in that process.
Oh, there is. And for some, it's the first time that someone has really listened and really been focused on them and discovering what moves them outside of all of the external forces with work and family, and figuring out what is going to make them happy. I always love asking, what's your dream scenario, that visualization of high in the sky, where do you want to be, and take out the doubts. It's always a really exciting journey.
I love that. It's rare we get asked that question as well, isn't it? Because we usually say, I'm not going to reach that anyway, so why would I even dream into it? Why would I even think about that sort of bigger goal, that big sort of heinous goal? If I'm not even going to be able to reach it, why would I even dare to think about it?
Exactly. And I love to ask, what was your dream when you were young? And there are
Mm,
pieces of that sometimes in where they're going or in this transition. And yeah, the self-discovery
amazing.
is huge, no matter how old, if
Yeah, I
you're
love,
10 or 50.
totally. We're learning every moment, aren't we? And I love the fact that you do that. If you're tapping into what was your dream when you were a kid, that was before the limitations of life and inner critic self perceptions of, oh, it's not going to be possible anyways, before we gave up on our dreams. So I love that you tap into that sort of childlike vision of what is possible where there aren't any barriers.
And reminding them of what drives them. And yeah, it's really cool to see.
Fabulous. Yeah. Love it. That's really interesting. So maybe talking a little bit about your formative years. So your early years of, not necessarily when you were a child, maybe, but what were your earliest kind of memories of thinking, do you know what? This is something that I'm really curious about. This is something that I would really love to know more about. Some people explore like psychology or therapy, or they get curious about human beings. I think
Yeah.
it's very rare to come across a coach who's just no interest in humans whatsoever, but they're always a little bit curious. It's on the radar somehow. So I'm wondering what your kind of awareness was
No,
focused on.
that's a great question. I think I would have loved majoring in psychology, but I took one psychology class, which was lots of fun. But I was on the marketing, public relations, writing track from the get-go. And then my entire career was in marketing and working on fun brands and agencies, and I loved it. I always, though, it seemed people would come to me for help or guidance or sometimes just to find some light in their days or their life. And I love being there for them. I would say in my career, I spent 13 years working for Chipotle. And
Mhm.
a lot of those years, I managed a big team of marketing people that were up and down the West Coast. I had 9 people that reported into me. And I would spend a lot of time just talking and exploring, are they happy? Are they challenged by what they're doing in their role? Is there something special they want to take on? What drives them? What moves them? What do they love? What's causing them stress? That was my absolute favorite thing about my job. I loved that time with my team, and I loved helping them and empowering them to make their dream a reality. And for some of the people on my team, positions were created at the company for them based on these conversations that we had and based on their special gifts and their dreams. And I loved that I was able to help get them there. So I think that was really the spark. And so it was when I left Chipotle that I went out on my own to
Mm.
start coaching and consulting.
So when you were, that's amazing. You've made me want to go to Chipotle now. I just imagined it. I love it. I honestly,
You're like, I need some
love it. We haven't
guacamole.
had it in the UK.
Yes,
Like we
yes.
haven't had it in the UK for so long. We've got it here for a few years, but there aren't many branches, but I know exactly where there's a good one. So I may head there this evening.
Okay, good.
Oh, it's amazing. You're throwing me off track now. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm actually from a branding and marketing background as well, and a design background. And I think that there's a real strong suit in the types of people such as us in this arena where we're curious. We're curious about what people are saying, what they're trying to say, what they're actually saying underneath the words. And I think we're very good empaths. We're very good at picking up on what is not being said as well. And so you in that role sounds like you are naturally predisposed to being a coach or going the coaching route anyway. I'm wondering if at that time you were aware of coaching and aware of what coaching was, or was it an unknown to you at that point?
I had one experience with coaching where there was a marketing meeting, and our director of marketing at the time, he brought in people from all over the country, and as one of our activities, he set up sessions for each of us with a coach.
Mm.
So I had a one-on-one session with a coach. And I remember that, and it was it was very foreign to me, and I wasn't used to talking about myself because I'm always having people talk
Oh
to me.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think my toughest thing with that was, what's the topic? What am I talking about today? And so that was my early experience with that. And I would say after I left Chipotle and I was consulting, it really emerged just with the people around me. I always say that on my block, I have all these powerhouse working mamas who are incredible, all the things that they manage. And I was finding a lot of them coming to me for guidance, and I might sit with them
Mm.
for hours helping work through things. I used to think I could just sit and do this all day. I loved sitting and working through it with them and helping and seeing that spark and seeing that light and hearing them say how it's impacted them and how their life is better.
Mm. That's amazing. Were you like then drawn to not retraining, but it felt like you encountered a coach and you experienced what coaching's like. And I always think that is the decider, the experiential feeling of what it's like to be coached, because people can describe what coaching is to you, but unless you've had the flavor of it, it's like, wow. But then when you do, if coaching is right for you, it's like you can't shut that door again, right? It's like, this is incredible.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So is that
And
where you went, I need to do this?
I think that coaching session I did, I think that it was all still very new, and I didn't have a lot of context about what I was going into and what it was gonna be like. And I remember
Mm.
after thinking, "I'd like to do this again," but it was only included at that one conference.
Yeah.
I I think it was during COVID, though, that it all really became clear, because
Hmm.
for working parents that I knew, life became almost impossible. In California, we had some of the strictest rules around in the US. We weren't in Florida
Hmm.
where they're still doing everything. But in California, schools were shut for quite a while. And then at best, they opened up for a few hours a day. And then it was twice a week. But for working
Oh,
parents,
wow.
it was crazy. And I'm like, there's a reason I didn't become a teacher. And everybody was feeling this. And it was during COVID that I really got very serious about pursuing this and looking for programs to hone my craft and be the best coach I can be and really make this a reality.
I love that. I love that yeah, it feels, because anyone can go and train to be a coach. And I say coach loosely in
Yeah.
inverted commas because it's unregulated. So there's so many different coach training schools. There are a bunch of really great ones out there. And of course, this podcast is coming from ACT Leadership, and I think is a fantastic coach training school. And it obviously has an emphasis towards leadership, training you to be an amazing coach to work with leaders or people in positions of leadership in some way.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you discovered ACT. How did you come across it, and what made you decide to train with them?
Yeah, great question. So for me, where you talked about leadership and how that's such a big part of coaching, and my experience at college, university, I went to school in North Carolina, and I was part of a program that was a leadership program that you went through all 4 years, and everyone applied when they were freshmen. Only 20 people were in the program, and we took special seminars and classes, and they did all the Myers-Briggs and assessments together, and we went on retreats,
Mhm.
and it was just incredible. And I was surrounded by pretty extraordinary people and feel so fortunate that I was able to be a part of it. And I have tried to continue growing as a leader just in my life and as a person. I loved my academic experience, and I put a lot of stock in the reputation of a school and a program. So I was looking at all these different coaching programs, when there were some in California, and it looked like a good program, but then you're looking at the meat behind it, and I'm like, what's the Santa Monica School of Life Coaching or something? It just didn't seem that it had that credibility and that meat behind it. When I was researching, I was finding myself drawn to some of the programs that were attached to institutions and schools that I respected. And when I came across ACT, I loved that it was connected to Brown. And Brown University obviously has such an incredible reputation. And I felt like they sold it well. There were so many videos that I could watch or webinars that I could go on. I liked the time frame of it. I liked that it was during COVID, so I was able to do it all remotely, which
Ah,
which for me, while it would have been really amazing and fun to go off to Rhode Island and get to meet everybody in person. But at that point, with my children and family and life, for me to
oh yeah.
go for every month, going for several days, that would have been maybe not so easy. So at the time, it was incredible that it was remote. And then I got to meet everybody at the end, which was so amazing.
I mean, physically, you met people at the end, yeah? You
Yeah,
came in.
they had
Fantastic.
a get together. So we were, because ours was 100% remote, where now it's,
Virtual.
completely virtual.
Yeah.
And it was so incredible, the bonds that we formed virtually and the friendships that we made. And then when we got there on the ground in Rhode Island, it was incredible. We were with friends and supporters, like as if we've known them forever. And it was so incredible. So the ACT program, I loved the program itself. I loved the focus on leadership. That was a huge draw. I loved the time frame that it was. There was a beginning and an end. I liked the mix of classroom and the live sessions, and then the fact that in the time in between, you're still very much engaged with your small group and practicing and with your coach mentors and those groups. And I felt like I always felt very connected and very on track. And then I loved how clear it was, the path. Once you do this class, once you complete it, here's what you need to do to then get your ICF certification. I love that they were recognized by ICF. That was really huge. And again, I love the affiliation with Brown University. I think that's pretty incredible.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think there's a real standard at ACT in terms of the quality of the content of the course, how it isn't just about setting goals and going for those goals and then great, way we succeeded. It's the being and the doing. It's who am I being as I'm doing this, and who am I becoming, and why is that important? And it goes really deep, doesn't it? Before you know it, you're like really actually exploring a heck of a lot of your own work as you're doing the training to become a coach for others.
Absolutely. And it was so different because, like I said, my background is more in marketing and journalism and business. And so I hadn't done this before, where you're doing these coaching sessions when you're practicing and you're doing all of this. And by the end of the day, it's like, wow, I would be,
I know, right?
exhausted. It's such a different part of you and a different kind of learning. You're giving so much
It's a
of
new
yourself.
muscle. Yeah, it sounds like though you've had a lifetime of listening and being able to listen well, which is an incredibly important quality of being a fantastic coach. But it also feels like now you're building the other muscle of, okay, so what kind of questions can I ask, and how do I frame them, and where am I going with this? And
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And again, for me, the hard part used to be like, what do you need coaching on today? To me, that was a really tough question. And like when we were doing the role playing, I'd be like, what am I going to say? What do I need coaching on today? And of course, there's so many things. And I come back to that when I'm with clients, because I recognize that there are people like me who might not be used to talking about themselves and having it be
oh
about
yeah,
them and thinking
yeah,
about that. And it always comes through. But I feel like I get where they're coming from, and I have a good way of helping them figure out, what are we really getting to today?
definitely. I think it's one of the huge surprises of coming into coaching as a coachee is the fact that someone is sitting opposite you, or either virtually or face to face, and they're listening to everything you're saying without judgment. You're like, this is such a rare gift in itself. It's like, when do people do that? Even the people we're closest to always have an opinion or an agenda for us, don't they?
Exactly, exactly. And there are some clients of mine where, again, I've worked with some young people where, when their parents are asking the questions, they shut down and they feel all this pressure. Like, you're stressing me out. You're asking me all these questions. And
Yeah,
again, they have the answers within them. And they need to figure it out at their pace and in the way that they
yeah.
need. Yeah.
What a gift coaching is for others, just to be able to give them space, time, and trust that those people can, if they don't have their own answers right now, that they are capable, they're naturally creative and enough to be able to source their own answers as well. I think that's a big difference between the interpretation of the word like mentor and coach, or consultant and coach.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like transitions and these decisions and people choosing their paths that they're going on, everybody deals with this every day. And I think there are a lot of people that, out of fear of the unknown or wanting to stay in their comfort zone, they miss out, and or they haven't learned what is their way of figuring it out. How do they get everything out of their head and figure
Mm.
out what is best for them? And I had a lot of transitions in my life that, again, I think helped me get into the mindset, because like we moved from New Jersey, New York to North Carolina when I was in high school. And then I
Wow.
made this decision when I was in my 20s. Do I stay in the South? Do I go back to New York City? I've always wanted to do this. And it was, for me at 26 when I did that, it was a big decision. And I had my ways of figuring it out, all my pros and cons lists and talking to my
Mhm.
sister, all the different things. And I think back and I'm like, that would have been amazing to have a coach. And as you're in your career and
Yeah.
you have something come up and you're like, do I go for this promotion? Do I apply for this? This has fallen into my lap, or my boss is really mean. Do I am I going to keep on dealing with this? All these different things. And so I think about how I worked through those, and I think a lot of people, they just need some help, again, finding that clarity, and coaching helps them.
Mm. That's amazing. Yeah, imagine, yeah, I remember all those difficult decisions and choice points that I had when I was younger as well, way before coaching existed. And you know how you try and figure it out? You ask friends, but friends have an agenda for you. They're like, they want the best for you. So they don't necessarily offer up a space where they trust that you can source your own answers. Whatever you think, whatever, they have an
Yeah.
agenda for you. Or you make lists and reams of paper and post-it notes. And it's, in the end, we're just like a stab in the dark and just jump into the unknown, really. But I think coaching is such a magical kind of space for us to be able to really have a real strong degree of certainty about the decisions that we're making because of the way that we facilitate that space.
I love that coaching is all about the present and the future. It's about where are we
Yeah.
now and where are we going. I always think it's so helpful for people to understand the difference between coaching and mentoring and therapy.
Oh, yeah.
One of the big learnings for me with the ACT program is you know, the listening, and not, it's, you're not giving advice, you're not mentoring. I've done so much mentoring in my life, and when
Mm.
really understanding that distinction, that this is their path and you're walking with them and opening up their eyes and helping them discover their truth and what's going to bring them joy. And it's so different for everyone. I love
Mm.
working with everybody on their values. I remember first doing a values workshop when I was with Chipotle and with my team. And it was so interesting because I learned so much about my team. Why are they happy here? And then when we do the values workshop, I learned like that they valued autonomy and stability. And you learn so much about a person, and you think, oh, it's so obvious. My values are this and this. I imagine everyone's got to value these. And you're like, no, they don't. Everyone's so
Exactly.
different. And it's incredible. It's so incredible. A lot of people with Chipotle, they valued integrity. Like that was really huge for them, to work for a company that stood
Mm.
behind something, that believed in how the food was sourced and what they're doing for the world. And so I love exploring that with my clients, with the values.
Mm.
And I think it's something that um again, I think it really helps them sometimes reframe and really think, like, the way you're living now, are you honoring these values as you're thinking
Mm.
about this path forward? I love seeing that incorporated into the training too, that's a part
Mm.
of coaching, because I always remember that out of all of the amazing leadership things that I did, I loved the values exercise. I thought fascinating.
I think that's so insightful, isn't it? In the sense that no two coachees are the same. Everyone is an amalgamation of values and life experience and drivers and purpose and motivators, and no two coaches are the same either. But I think once we are given incredible tools like we get at ACT to be able to assess who's in front of us and to dance with them in
Yeah.
that moment and in the next moment and in the next one, without having an agenda for them,
Yeah.
anything's possible for that person. Incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you say finding that fit with your coach it's huge. There's so many different personalities and different comfort levels on what you're looking for. I loved with ACT. They had a very unique part of the program where it's your coaching persona based
Oh,
on
yeah.
your personality. If you might be more of a listener, or you're more charismatic, or you're more funny, or you're more direct. And everybody had a primary one and a secondary one. And so we would practice sessions where you had to go to your one that you had to go to your lowest one, the one that you are not really
The
bringing to
most
life.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yes, most
Archetypes.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yes, the archetypes, I thought it was brilliant, and it was really
Mm.
hard when you had to focus. I would find myself, like, becoming this almost different you're finding it within yourself, but it was
Do
so
you remember what
powerful.
your challenging one was? Your challenging
I
archetype?
totally remember. It was the owl. It was the
Ah.
quiet, it was the owl, and I have I feel like I'm a very good listener, and I have become so much more so since the program, but the owl, where it's more you're observing. And when my primary one was the rock star, I think. And
Oh, of
then
course.
yeah. And so
So these archetypes, like for those who don't know, these archetypes are kind of characteristics, or archetypes that we step into so that we can really turn the volume up on our coaching and step into a new energy. Yeah. And it sounds like the owl was one where it's like calm and listening and peaceful and just it does feel
very
like it would be the polar opposite to rock star. Yeah.
yes. But it was incredible, like, drawing out my owl, and
Mm.
I learned so much through it. And I think that that archetype program was created. It's very unique to ACT.
Mm.
I thought it was just brilliant. And again, it's all part of this program. We're learning how to be wonderful coaches for our clients, but it's so much self-awareness as we went through the program on learning about ourselves, that we can make even stronger to make us even better coaches. I thought that was just an incredible part of it.
I think that's the unwritten disclaimer, which is in order to do fantastic work with other people, we need to be willing to do our own work as well. And I think that happens naturally. And those who can't necessarily see that and they want to be more, no, I'm doing coaching to you, then they're not really coaching. They're more projecting their expectations on another human being, which is horrible.
Yeah.
So this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. Real fun. I've really enjoyed it. And definitely I'm going out to get Chipotle now as well.
You are.
I just want to close this out by saying Chipotle's still there. I just want to close this out by asking you the question, like, if people want to track you down and find you, that sounds a bit sinister. No, if people want to find you on social media, what's the best way of connecting with you?
So my business is called Ivy and Scout, and so they can go to ivyandscout.com, or I'm on Instagram at Ivy and Scout Life, and my LinkedIn it's under Jessica Frank Harrison. There's a lot
Amazing.
of so I throw in my maiden name in there.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in the world, isn't there? I noticed that when you go into LinkedIn these days, it's wow, there's 400 Phil Askews or whatever.
I know, yeah. You're like, I don't have a very unique name.
That's
Yes, we do.
amazing. Thank you. Amazing. I'm sure people will reach out to you. It's been a fascinating conversation. I
It's
really
so
enjoyed it.
much
Real
fun.
fun.
It's been so much fun. I can't thank you enough for having me on. It's been amazing.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Okay, have a great day.
If you'd like to train to be a professional coach, why don't you check out actleader.com. That's www.actleader.com. On our website, we have a ton of information that can really help you get clarity on the exact right course for you. We also have articles that go into detail about the different aspects of coaching, how to apply it, and why it's a wonderful thing. Look forward to seeing you soon.